Šařík a mám tady na starosti organizaci tohoto z toho semináře ze strany firmy DPA a firmy Audio Pro. Samozřejmě to nejpodstatnější jste tady vy, takže mi taky budeme posílat prezenčku, abyste toho neměli málo, nicméně my jsme postoupili o krok vejš, o krok dál, takže ji budeme posílat elektronicky, takže elektronicky do toho tabletu se nám zadáte, všichni to jistě umíte, prosím pěkně vrátit na konci, jo? Není to tak, že poslední si ho může nechat, prosím vrátit. Jinak k těm organizačním věcem délka semináře závisí od toho, jak dlouho nás to bude bavit. Pokud nás to bude bavit, můžeme tady být teoreticky až do 9 hodin. Tu hodinku bychom potřebovali na to zabalení, tady se zavírá prý v 10. Nicméně počítáme takovým střízlivým odhadem, že bychom končili kolem 6-7 hodiny. Protože pak už asi ani jeden z nás nebude schopen souvisle hovořit. Vidíte, já s tím mám problém už teď. To znamená, budeme pochopitelně dělat přestávky, tak aby jsme se my mohli občerstvit, vy jste si mohli oddechnout. A další organizační věci už řekl pan Šiml, takže já bych tedy předal za první mu poděkování moje a za druhý bych předal slovo tady kolegovi, který se jmenuje Brink a je to člověk z firmy DPA, jak stálo v pozvánce, který nás bude provázet naším seminářem. Já musím věc Faber tady.
Mm-hmm.
It's yours.
I have no idea what he just said. I hope he said something nice.
Yeah, but I forgot one thing. Vy, kdo jste nám k přihlášení napsali, že byste potřebovali trošičku pomoct s rozuměním, tak já jsem tady pro vás, budu se tady tak nějak pohybovat, kdybyste někdo nerozuměl, klidně na mě mávněte, já se pokusím osvětlit tu konkrétní věc. Původní záměr byl vás tady shromáždit na jedno místo, bohužel se mi nevytiskla šipka. Takže pokud byste chtěli, můžeme si třeba tamhle v tom z mého pohledu v tom pravém zadním rohu shromáždit, já si tam tak nějak třeba sednu. Ono teda vás je asi 34, takže nevím, jestli dokážu být dostatečně flexibilní, abych každému dokázal zodpovědět, na co se ptá, ale udělám všechno, co je v mých silách. Tak a teď už teda vrátím zpátky slovo Pavlovi.
Okay, whatever you said. I don't speak Czech. I speak Danish, I speak German, I speak a little, and I speak English. So if you have any questions during the seminar, please raise your hand and we will translate if you don't understand what I'm saying. It's a little louder, is it? Little less, me? Okay, can you hear me all the way in the back? Good. If you can't, no. Okay. My name is Bo. I travel around the world and do seminars like this for DPA microphones. I'm a sound engineer myself. I've been working in the audio industry for, you wouldn't believe it if I told you. I've been in film. I've done booming. I've done hiding microphones. I've been in theater. I've been playing on the stage as a rock musician for a few years. I had hair to down here and playing keyboards and done all the touring in Europe. So I've been very much in the business and I've been working with microphones for as long as I can remember. The D in DPA stands for Denmark, or Danish actually. And DPA was founded originally from a working relationship with B&K. They are doing measuring instruments and they also do measuring microphones. But in the early 90s, a couple of guys from B&K, they decided to use these microphones or to try to sell them into the entertainment industry, broadcast, theater, whatever. And B&K, they didn't believe that that was possible, so they said, go ahead, nobody wants small microphones. And these guys, they figured, yes, the broadcast people and the theater people and the stage people, everybody, they wanted smaller microphones. So they designed these microphones. In the beginning they looked very different, but now they have, in the very beginning, they didn't even have XLR connector. They had VUT connector, and they were powered by 130 volts and so on and so on. They were measuring microphones. But they had them redesigned. They did stuff to the microphone so they could actually be used for us in the entertainment industry. But the philosophy of having linear microphones, or microphones that create whatever you put in front of the microphone, that philosophy is still... That's okay, welcome, we still have a few spaces. That's still the philosophy of DPA. We like to give you microphones that are as transparent as possible. We think that the microphone should be neutral, if you like. The microphone should not color the sound. The instrument that you are picking up are coloring the sound. The vocalist is coloring the sound, not the microphone. We believe that there shouldn't be as one specific microphone for one specific singer, or guitar player, or drummer, or any specific instrument. Pretty much just one microphone that covers everything. So that's what we do. We make one microphone that covers a lot of different singers, but we also make very, very small microphones. Because one of the philosophies in the measuring industry is that whenever you put something in front of the sound source, you change the sound. It's very easy to hear that the sound changes whenever I put something in front of this microphone here. So if you imagine putting a huge microphone in front of a singer in a recording studio, that will obviously change the sound when you put something in front of his mouth. It's not his mouth, it's not the sound source that changes it. It is whatever you put in front of it. So the smaller microphone that you can have in front of whatever sound source you're picking up, the less coloration you get. That's pretty much it. So when we make small microphones, it's because we want to have as little coloration as possible. These microphones that we make in Denmark are handmade. We have I believe 150 girls, mostly girls, sitting there because they say that girls have a steadier hand. So everything is glued and soldered and printed, and a lot of components in each of these microphones needs to be very carefully selected. And selection of microphones is also very, very important for us, because we believe that the microphone, as I said before, they need to be taken out of the equation. That means that whenever you pick up a microphone, whatever DPA microphone you pick up, you know exactly what it sounds like, or you know exactly that it doesn't sound at all. Well, recreates the sound. We have audio, yes, but it shouldn't change from actor to actor, or from news host to news host. It's always the same microphone. It's very, very small. You see, that's how small it is. And it can be like this one here, that's an omni microphone, a pressure microphone, or like this one here, it's a directional microphone, a cardioid microphone. Both of them can be used in, for instance, news, TV. But they could also, this is the directionals, they can be used in TV, but they can also be used on musical instruments. You see, we have the microphones all over this drummer. Up here are the cymbals and on the toms, and everywhere we have these small directional microphones. You know who this is? Yeah, you know where he's from? Denmark, yeah. So now you know 3 Danes. You know me, you know Lars, and you know Søren. He's also. You might know a few more but we are only 5 million people in Denmark, so if you speak Danish, you're very lucky. If you know a Dane, you're even luckier. Welcome.
Excuse me.
That's okay. I was late too. Anyway, it doesn't work today. This microphone seminar or workshop or whatever we would like to call it, I like to call it workshop because you guys are going to do a little work as well. We will do some hands-on down here where we will be recording stuff. I have a little recording set up here, and I have a little microphone here, and a lot of other microphones that we will do some recording, experimenting with during the day. We will have a band here around 4 musicians at 4. Yes. And we will record them, play a little around with the microphones, and listen to them. So, let's call it a workshop. First we work, and then you guys shop. The seminar will be covering a lot of different topics. I will be talking about frequency response, on and off axis. What's the difference, and why is it important to know what it is? I will be talking about some of the myths in large diaphragm versus small diaphragm microphones. Omni microphones versus directional microphones. When to use what? What's the pros and cons on omni and versus directional microphone? And also, if you like, well, I will touch it anyway, what the difference is, how we built the different microphones. I will get back to that in a minute. Also, dynamic versus condenser microphones. There are a lot of myths out there when to use a dynamic and when to use a condenser microphone. And I will briefly touch how these are built, what's the difference in the mechanics in these microphones. I understand that we have people here from the broadcast industry. Do we have broadcast people here? Someone from broadcast? We have at least 2. Okay. How many of you are from film? Do you do film stuff? A couple. Hiding microphones, right? Yeah, in the hair and on the chest and so on. And the rest of you are live musicians, live sound engineers. Okay, you can't wait until 4 o'clock, am I right? I'll do it real fast then. I'll make time run fast. Anyway, I have a section here about speech intelligibility, and we will have someone sitting here, and we will place 4 microphones on this test person, and we will listen to the different placements of the microphone. Even though you are mostly doing live things, this is very interesting as well for you guys. It's mostly interesting for the broadcast and the film guys, but it'll be fun for you. Rejection of background noise. How do we reject the background noise most effectively? Which microphones do we use and where do we place them, and so on. And when I talk about this, background noise is a lot of different things. It could be the drummer making noise, it could be ventilation systems, it could be whatever, highway or something that we don't want in our recording or in our microphone. So, background noise, background sound. All right, but 6 topics, and it's not that I will take one topic at a time. I will put all the topics down in one big pot, and I will talk a little about large diaphragm microphones, and a little about background noise, and a little about speech intelligibility, and by the end of the day, you would have heard a lot of all these 6 topics. So, anything else you would like me to talk about, just raise your hand and ask anything microphone related. Okay. Before we go any further, we would like to just make one thing clear, that a microphone is a device that transforms acoustic energy into electric voltage. That's pretty much what this is all about. Welcome. All microphones do that. That's the basic, that's the principle of a microphone. It doesn't matter if it's a condenser or dynamic or ribbon, whatever it is, that's the general idea. And how does it do that? Well, acoustic energy, the air molecules are moved when the speakers or the sound, whatever sound source is making movement. It's moving the air molecules. And by moving, if we take the speaker as an example, when the speaker is moving forward, it's creating an overpressure of air molecules, pushing the air molecules close together pretty much. And when it's moving backwards, it's creating an underpressure. So the overpressure, underpressure is creating that sound wave. It doesn't matter, as I said, if it's a dynamic microphone, it's a ribbon microphone, condenser microphone, or if it's an omnidirectional or directional microphone, or it's a large diaphragm or a small diaphragm. It goes with everything. But there are differences in the constructions of these, of course. A condenser microphone is pretty much, it's very simple to make a condenser microphone. All you need is a backplate, a diaphragm, and a battery. That's pretty much all you need. So, how it works, we have a closed chamber here, closed circuit in this situation here. And then we have diaphragm and a backplate with some sort of charge. And that will create a capacity. And this is in passive mode. There's no movement on the diaphragm. But as soon as the diaphragm starts moving, I will go like this. Jumping a little ahead here. In the passive mode, that's a different drawing of the same diaphragm. Diaphragm and backplate and case. We have a steady non-movement system here. We have air behind the backplate, air molecules in here, and we have, of course, air out here. But when the air molecules are creating an overpressure, the diaphragm will move closer to the backplate, and when we are under pressure, it will move away from the backplate. And that movement of the diaphragm creates the difference in the output of the condenser. Pretty simple. The dynamic microphone, whoops, where is it? Here it is. We have a diaphragm out here, we have the coil and a magnet, where the coil, when the coil is moving over the magnet, it's creating the voltage change. So you can imagine that the diaphragm in this picture here is not creating a pressure change or any kind. It's the pressure change creating that creates the movement over the magnet. So the advantage of the condenser microphone is that it's very simple to make, very cheap to make. And the advantage of the dynamic microphone is that it's very rugged. It doesn't break when you drop it, and it doesn't require any power because it creates its own power. The advantage of the condenser microphone, on the other hand, is that it can be very, very small. There's no limit, basically, to how small this can be. The limitation starts when you are creating or demanding stuff from the microphone. If you demand that it has no self-noise, then there's a limit to how small it can be versus the air molecules. Or if you want high SPL handling, loud sound pressure levels, then there's a limit to how close the diaphragm can be on the backplate, and so on and so on. I'll get more back to that. The dynamic microphone, on the other hand, is very simple construction, and the limit here is, of course, that we need mass here. We need a magnet, and in order to have a magnet big enough to create a voltage change, we need some size. There is a limit to how small this dynamic microphone can be. So that's why when we are looking at our cell phones, for instance, the microphone in the cell phone is mostly always a condenser microphone because it can be so small. But you also know that the microphone in the cell phones has a limited frequency response. So the size and the frequency response are two factors that we need to consider very much. All right, these are omni microphones. Both the dynamic microphone here, it's a closed circuit, it's an omni microphone, and the condenser microphone here is an omni microphone. And what does that mean? Well, the pressure change, as you see it here in this picture, you see the pressure change created by the sound source makes the diaphragm move. It doesn't matter if the sound source is creating pressure in front of the diaphragm. Well, it will always be in front of the diaphragm because it doesn't matter which way you turn the microphone, the air pressure will always be right there. If we listen in this room and we listen to the air pressure level change that my voice creates, it's all over the room. It's the same air pressure level. It doesn't matter which way we turn our microphone. So that's an omni microphone. The way that we can make that directional, this microphone, is by telling the microphone or showing the capsule the difference between the front and the back of the diaphragm. So if we make an example or an experiment that we now have the diaphragm vertical to the sound source, we have no difference on either side of the diaphragm. It will hear nothing because the difference on the omni microphone there will be a difference between the inside, the closed chamber, the air pressure that's inside, and the air pressure outside. Where here, there's no inside and outside, we have just a floating membrane or diaphragm. And when the sound source is coming from the side, it hears there's no difference between the front and the back anymore. So there will be no audio. That is basically the perfect figure-of-8 microphone. Sound pressure coming from the front of the microphone will create a positive energy and at the same time create a negative movement energy on the back of that microphone. So we will have a perfect figure-of-8. So the way that we make or can make directional microphone, if we go to the next here, you see that pressure traveling around it, the diaphragm creates the negative energy. So if we make an omni microphone, the one that has the pressure, just picks up the pressure all the way around, we have that as a positive going energy, and we add the figure-of-8. There we go. We add the figure-of-8 on top of that. Imagine that it's possible to have. Did you just say good morning?
Sorry.
You are excused. We have here, if you imagine that we have the two diaphragms exactly at the same spot. We have the pressure microphone and the pressure gradient microphone. And we have sound coming from the top. We have sound coming from the front, meaning that the energy combined with the figure-of-8 and the omni on the front is double, the output is double up. Because we have two diaphragms hearing exactly the same energy. On the back of this diaphragm, we have the audio signal is out of phase, and combined with the omni, it gives us the positive of the omni microphone, combined with the negative from the figure-of-8 microphone, the result is 0. So we have no incoming sound from the rear of this microphone, but we have a lot coming from the front of the microphone. And gradually from the sides, more and more, and less and less, going backwards. So that's very simple. That's so simple, you imagine, you wonder why not everybody is making good microphones. But it's not that simple. I'm sorry. See, here we have the perfect omni microphone and the perfect figure of 8. And if we add these two together, exactly the same amount of these two, with the same frequency response, the same sensitivity, and so on, then we have the perfect cardioid microphone. But if we want to have more directivity, more figure of 8, more or less, then we will have to live with a little backload, because that's the nature of this. If we want more omni, then we have the wide cardioid. So the combination, these 4 are mixes of these two in combination. Does it make sense? Yeah? Good. See, the thing is with cardioid and or pressure gradient and pressure microphones, the way that we make these gradient, the figure of 8 again, let's use that as an example. For the membrane to hear the difference between the front and the back, we need to make it a little more forgiving or a little more loose in the membrane tension compared to the pressure microphone. The pressure microphone, we can make it very, very, very tight. We can have a high polarization, high voltage on the backplate, very tight diaphragm, and very close to each other. And because the polarization, because the capacity in there is so large, very small movements will make a difference on the diaphragm. So we can make them very tight, very precise. Where the cardioid microphone, if we need to capture the difference in the low end on the rear of the microphone, the low end, the long waveforms, then we need to loosen a little up on the diaphragm tension. And the diaphragm tension, the backside of that is that we have to determine in which distance do we want to have the linear frequency response. Where on the omni microphone, the linear frequency response is not relative to distance. It's just pressure. It's air pressure, it doesn't matter at which distance. It's the same relative frequency range we have on all frequencies. It's the same relative level we have. Where on the cardioid microphones, the directional microphones, because the larger the waveform, the longer the waveform it is, the less difference between the front and the back of a diaphragm. Imagine we have the diaphragm here, we have a long waveform, and this little difference between front and the back of the diaphragm is not captured on the long waveforms. And in order for us to make it capture these differences between the front and the back of the diaphragm, we need to make traps. We need to make like a labyrinth, so the sound travels through the back of the microphone or through interference tube like on the shotgun microphone here. So we have to agree on which distance these directional microphones are linear when we make the construction. So that's why we have something called the proximity effect. This microphone here is an instrument mic. It's like the one we have on the violin here, on the picture. It's this one here. And this is where I introduce one of my trademarks. Because what I do at my seminars, I throw microphones. So if you've been at one of my seminars, you know that I throw microphones to keep people awake. Maybe I should throw one at them. No. The directional microphones, like this one here, they suffer from the proximity effect. Meaning that when we move the microphone closer to the sound source, we add to the difference between the sensitivity of the front and the back of the microphone for the low frequencies. so it becomes more sensitive to low frequencies. So if I move the microphone very close to the violin over there, or very close to the kick drum, or whatever I want to pick up, I get more low end. You see, this one here, the one that I'm passing around, is linear in 20 centimeters, because that's the average of all the instrument that we are making that microphone for. If we move it closer, if we move it into 10 centimeters, then we are adding from around 500 hertz, we are adding 6-7 dB of the low frequencies, but only the low frequencies. If we're pulling it away, we are, of course, the opposite. Then it cannot hear the differences between the front and the back of the diaphragm. So it won't register any level differences. It won't register the low end, pretty much. That's a very simplified way of talking about proximity effect. But now you know that it's there. So when we go to the conclusion of omni versus cardioid microphone, we see that we have no proximity effect on the omni. It can be good and it can be bad, but it's just saying that it doesn't suffer from the proximity effect, where the cardioid does. Sensitivity and handling noise. Yeah, the pressure microphone suffers again because the diaphragm is looser, so it's easier to move. So if I blow into this microphone, you would hear the air of the blow, not the membrane, not distortion. But if I do that same thing into this microphone without the wind protection on it, it will distort, it will collapse, because the diaphragm is so much looser. And it will distort, yes. We have higher distortion on cardioid microphone, directional microphones. Oh, by the way, you're welcome to pull it out as I did here, because you will see that it's actually a miniature shotgun, and you can look inside and you can see the capsule inside the interference tube. It will take forever for that microphone to reach you guys out there, so catch. If you break it, you buy it. Anyway, of course, some of the things that everybody knows is that the gain to feedback ratio is much higher on cardioid microphone. It should actually be the other way around. Because we have a higher ratio, it means that we have, no, it's right. We have a higher ratio. We can bring up the level higher on the directional microphones than we can on the omni microphones. It doesn't mean, because this is an omni microphone, it doesn't mean that it will feed just because I'm in front of the speaker. It just means that I might be able to play louder if I was using a directional microphone. And the reason why it doesn't feed is because we have no distortion. You know Jimi Hendrix? He likes to have distortion on the guitar, and he likes to make that feedback. Pointing the guitar, the pickups from his guitar to the speaker created that feedback, and he could control that. He liked that. That was a cardioid microphone. The guitar microphone creates feedback. So it doesn't necessarily mean that just because it's omni it will feed, or just because it's cardioid it doesn't feed. It's about the distortion. And as I said earlier, the off-axis response, the frequency response, we will get back to that in a minute. But we do have, typically, we have some colorization of cardioid microphones off-axis, where the omni microphone is pretty much independent on direction and independent on the frequency response. This could be a good time to talk about the frequency response of cardioid or directional microphones. Because when I said in the beginning that we have polarization of omni microphones, or we have polarization when we place a microphone in front of the sound source, and why we want to have small microphones. Another reason to have smaller microphones is because if the microphones are very small, they will not create a shattering for itself. imagine that we have a huge microphone. It could be as big as this one here. Let's say that we put it in omni. We think that the omni signal on this huge microphone actually creates an omni characteristics. It doesn't, because the high frequency here in front of the microphones are okay, but the high frequencies behind the microphone are the sound wave is so high that it won't, or the frequencies are so high, so short, that we won't create a pressure change in front of the diaphragm. So an omni microphone, if you have, imagine, there are many of them, large diaphragm microphone with an omni signal. They are not omni. When you turn them around, they have no high frequencies. If you sing right into it, it has a lot of high frequencies. So when we make measuring microphone, we make sure that they are very, very small, so the pressure changes all over the microphone will be the same. So when I say that they are always smooth and even, it's not always like that. It depends on the size of the microphone. Speaking of size does matter. So if your wife tells you differently, it's not true. It is. Size does matter. We have a diaphragm, or a membrane as we say here. It's 1 micron thick. It's on a miniature microphone. It's like the one that I have here. That's the necklace microphone actually here. It was made for Big Brother, where they were not wearing any clothing. So they need to place the microphone like this. And it was Big Brother. It was not another movie. The sound engineer there, he wanted microphones that the actors, they were capable of putting on themselves and always in the right position. So I will pass it around without the little grid here. I've taken that off because then you can see what membrane or what microphone. Okay, you will never get mics. You are too close. Here, catch. You will see that the diaphragm, you can actually see through the small holes there that you can see the diaphragm in there. And that diaphragm is 1 micron thick. And the distance to the backplate, to the electric layer of the backplate, is 25 microns. And the backplate is 200 microns thick. So how big is that? It's really, really hard to imagine the size of that. I could say that 1 micron is the wavelength of red light, but that doesn't give you anything either. It's 1/4 of a normal hair. That doesn't give you anything either. So we will blow it up to a soccer field. Now the diaphragm is the size of a football stadium. Just for imagination, it's not possible, but this diaphragm is completely flat. Imagine that it has the same distance to the backplate at the entire stadium, and it's only 2 centimeters thick. And we have now 50 centimeters to the backplate, to the grass, if you like. So 50 centimeters over the grass, 2 centimeters thick golden plate. And then if we jump in the middle of it with a 120 dB sound wave, it will move 1 millimeter. Only 1 millimeter. So that's the sizes that we're talking about. It's really hard to imagine. If you see this film, you see a round membrane. The membrane in the microphones that I've been passing around, they are square. It's easier to make, it's easier to control the movements on a square diaphragm. But this here is round, like on pretty much all the other microphones except for the miniature microphones. On large diaphragm microphones and pretty much everywhere. And you see this is, of course, it's super, super exaggerated. But it's just to give you an idea of how complex these movements are. I make it look or sound really, really easy. Just having a speaker moving back and forth, creating over-under pressure, and then picking it up, and then we have movement on a diaphragm. But if you imagine this is not a diaphragm, but this is a trampoline. We have the heavy sound waves. It's me. I'm jumping in this trampoline. I'm the low frequencies. And I have my grandchildren around me. They are the high frequencies. And imagine who's in control. When I'm jumping in the trampoline, they will be all over the place. They wouldn't be able to have any fun there because they won't control their own movements. But the heavy guy, he will have full control, and everything will be pretty much out of control. So it's really hard to make these diaphragms so everybody has fun in the trampoline. If we compare the large diaphragm versus the small diaphragm microphone, the large diaphragm microphone has lower self-noise. Well, the reason for that is because, again, the trampoline, it's easier to make movement on a huge trampoline rather than a very, very small trampoline. It's hard to hit it, actually. So when it's easier to move, we have less amplification, and therefore we have less self-noise. The sensitivity, same thing. It's easier to move it, so we can have higher sensitivity. We can have higher polarization of the backplate because we have a larger surface. So we can make a larger output. But what is really interesting is the difference between the SPL handling and the sensitivity, because that gives us the dynamic range. You see, 126 dB, that's where we have 1% total harmonic distortion, meaning that that's where 1% of the entire signal is distorting. 126 minus the self-noise gives us 119 dB of dynamic range. So that's the working window, that's the area that we can use our microphone in. Everywhere above 7 dB, below 126 dB. The small diaphragm microphone, it has higher self-noise, but it also has a higher SPL handling. It doesn't distort as much because, as I said before, the larger diaphragm microphones, they have a tendency of distorting sooner. And this distortion here is the diaphragm distorting. It's not the electronics, it's the diaphragm distorting. It's the trampoline there, remember that. So even though it has a higher self-noise, where the large diaphragm was working from here to here, the smaller microphone is working from here to here, so we have a larger dynamic range. And we also have a larger frequency range, which is interesting. But if you again remember that the big guy, he is totally in control. The low end is taking control over the large diaphragm microphone. It's hard to make it reacting on naturally. We have large diaphragm microphone on the market that goes all the way up to 50 kilohertz, but it's made electronically, or with dual membrane system, or with different kind of systems. Where on the small diaphragm microphone, harder tensions, more precise diaphragms makes us capable of making precision microphones all the way up to 10K, and a big surprise for a lot of people, all the way down to 10 Hertz. A lot of people think that you need a large diaphragm microphone to replicate low frequency, because a lot of people think that it's the same as the speaker, the physics of the speaker, where you need a large surface to create all that energy to make under and overpressure in the low frequencies. That's not the same with microphones. It's a myth. If you imagine that your ears are microphones, they are the perfect microphones. And your eardrum is, I don't know how big, but it's not very big. And you are capable of hearing low frequencies, I hope. So that's a perfect example of a pressure microphone being able to hear low frequency on a distance. And it doesn't matter which way you turn, you will hear the same amount of low frequency. So it's not directional, it's not relative to the distance. So it doesn't matter if the diaphragm is very, very small. If it has the right construction, it has the right preamp, the right tension, the right sensitivity, and so on, it will be able to capture even lower than 10 Hertz. It could capture it down to 2 Hertz for that matter. Just need pressure changes, and we can capture 2 Hertz. When we're making these comparisons, I don't know if you can see it on the picture, but it's actually two very similar grids that we have in the picture behind it. And that's because it's the two same types of microphones. And that's very important that we know that we are not comparing oranges and apples. We're comparing apples with apples. These two microphones, they are made of pretty much the same diaphragm material. The electronics behind it is the same. Both of them run on phantom power, and so on and so on. If we're comparing different types of microphones, we need to be sure that we know what we're talking about. Like here, it still doesn't work. Here, we're comparing, said all that, we're comparing a miniature microphone, the microphone that I'm passing around, and this microphone here. One is 12 millimeter membrane, or that diaphragm. I can do that. I was lucky. Now we're comparing a 12 millimeter steel membrane with a 5 millimeter mylar. The microphone that I pass around is square, as I said before, and the other one is round. There are many differences in these. But this is just to give you an example that we still have the self-noise, 26 dB. It's a little higher than the other small microphone. Again, it's smaller. We don't have as high SPL handling on this. So now we're beyond the limit of where we can have the highest SPL handling on a microphone. When the microphone is smaller than 9 millimeters, we're actually losing the capability of having this extreme high SPL handling. But we're still very good. 123 at 1% distortion, and 144 dB at clipping. And the clipping is something that we need to talk about as well. And this is where I will change presentation. Because clipping is the electronics clipping. It's not the diaphragm hitting the backplate. Here we have the dynamic range of the vocal microphone. This one. And don't worry, I won't throw this one. 139 dB. Now we have distortion. Now the diaphragm starts to distort. But we don't have clipping until 160 dB. That's where the electronics are overloading, where we have no more audio. But the distance between 139 dB and 160 dB is actually very useful, because this headroom is the audio in this headroom here is normally only the transients, the highest peaks. And these transients, they are really important to have, but they are so fast that distortion, transient distortion, does not necessarily ruin the sound picture. Sometimes it's nice to have a little distortion, because it rounds off the peaks, and these transients can be really painful and can be really ugly. So sometimes it's nice to have a little distortion there, but clipping is never nice. Clipping is end of audio, and clipping of one instrument will on the microphone will create audio stuck on everything that we have on that microphone. What I mean is that if I was a singer, I'm not, don't worry, and I was close to the drummer, and the cymbal or the snare or something entering the microphone will create clipping. You wouldn't be able to hear me singing anymore. Or if I was playing the tambourine while I was singing. I don't know why I would do that, but if I did, the clipping of the tambourine will stop people from hearing my singing, my beautiful singing voice. So, the transients there are not our enemy if we have headroom. And this is where we introduce the first little experiment, because we have here a shotgun microphone. And have any of you worked with shotgun microphones? You have. Only one. You have? And you, of course. And any of you worked with it in film? Of course in film, but have you ever worked with it in music production? You have. Which shotgun microphone?
I used some record interface. It was some dictaphone. It was better dictaphone, and it has a special edition, and it was the microphone.
Okay.
I can record some concert in a very small cafe.
All right. And you have a lot of reflection from the room and so on. From the walls. Yes. Very wise. It's not that many people that use shotgun microphones in recording musical instruments. Normally, we think of shotgun microphones just to pick up voice. Boom operators, they boom. They know to boom from top down, not because they lighting guys, they like us to boom from up there, but because we know it sounds better when you boom from up here. That's a different seminar. We might be able to talk a little about that later. But the shotgun microphones are known for being best at their on-axis response, the frequency response. And this is where I introduced the frequency response. We have the shotgun microphone here, and the frequency response of the shotgun microphone. You see the top one is the on-axis. That's the audio entering the microphone from the front. That's linear. That's nice to know that input equals output. So we know everything we put in front of the microphone will sound natural coming out the other end. But what is also very interesting is to have a linear off-axis response. And why is that? Well, for many reasons. One of them is that the output of all microphones is the sum of inputs from all angles. So it doesn't matter where the input is coming from. Everything will come out here. We'll do a little experiment. I have created a very delicate transient response instrument. Don't worry, I won't throw it. This creates transients. Can you hear? These speakers, they don't like transients. Or the wireless system doesn't like transients. We have distortions. So if I'm out here, you can hear it. sounds good, but in here, it doesn't sound good. So what we'll do now, I will ask one of you to come and help me. Do we have a volunteer? No? Yes, we have a volunteer. Give the man a hand. All right. Are you a drummer? No? Good. See, remember the proximity effect before? We have one distance where I'm doing like this because I'm going to tell you that that distance on this microphone here is 60 centimeters. It's designed to be overhead here when we boom for film. So when we make this experiment where you will play my fantastic instrument in front of the microphone and I'll be over here recording, you need to be 60 centimeters away from the microphone to have it as natural as possible. If you go closer, we will have too much low end. You get it. Can you see my Pro Tools? Yes, you can. It's fantastic. I will make a new track and we will make it we will call it 4017 because that's the name of the microphone. I don't want to bore you with that. All the numbers, you can ask Jan and Søren about all the numbers and the prices and so on. I have no idea. Here we are. No? Yes. Little test. Okay, if you hold it like this here, we will have more of the high pitch because you are, if you hold it like this. Okay, so the difference, yes, you get it. Did everybody remember to shut off their mobile phones? I have no idea how that could be because it's on please do not disturb. It's not my day, is it? It was Abbott calling me and telling me that they... Okay. Shotgun microphones. Maybe that would explain the pointer. So,
Try and snap your finger in.
yeah, that would be nice. New track. Nothing up there, right? Here we are. It's back here. Okay. Nobody leaves the room. Mic input number 1. Sound test. I think we better record. That's okay. It's okay. You did a very good job. We have a little example here. From here to here, I guess. Okay. So, you see all the transients, right? The ugly transients. that will just make my my wireless system or my console, hopefully not the console and hopefully not the speakers, because then this will distort as well. We hope we don't have any audio. So, we now can determine that it's either this microphone or the wireless system that's making the distortion here. I know it's not the microphone. So, that's very nice. We have all these nice transients, we have all the clarity. It's very recognizable, the sound that we recorded and we played back. It sounds as awful here as it does up here. But that's only half the truth. The second half of the truth is the off axis. So we'll do it again, and this time I will be turning the microphone around 360 degrees so we can hear what it sounds like from all angles. And you notice that, maybe you don't, but I will tell you, that I have it on a microphone stand with a boom because I want the diaphragm to be at the center axis. So when we are making the fantastic noise here, we know that we have the same distance to the diaphragm all the time. If I just ask you to walk around, or we did it's known as the key ring test, this one here. But when we do it with a set of keys, we will have no control over the distance to the microphone. So when you do it, the key test is normally done when you're testing wireless systems like this, because the transients are killing the systems. But if you're doing it to test the microphones, make sure that you always have the same distance to the diaphragm when you do it. And we have here, we have the same distance. Okay? Are you ready? Yeah? You're very good at it, by the way. Thank you. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed for my Pro Tools system. We have a little delay here. Latency. Okay. Let's go. Actually, I'd like to mute this one here because we don't want to record the distortion, the distorted sound in the speaker. So okay. I will zoom in so you can see we're losing energy and regaining it as I turn around, as I turn the microphone around. So, if this experiment works and this picture here is true, that we have the same level, the same frequency response pretty much, off axis as we have on axis, it should sound like Jan is just pulling the fader up and down. That the audio is disappearing and it's coming back up. If it is like a lot of shotgun microphones on the market, it would sound like he would be teasing us and he would be pulling the fader up and down and someone else is turning the EQ. And we don't want that when we use microphones, right? So let's hope that it sounds like we're just pulling the fader up and down. We can hear the low frequency, and that the low frequency is actually from the microphone stand. We should have had less of that. Maybe we'll find a different microphone stands to do it. So, but anyway, you can imagine. The important thing here is that it doesn't change the frequency response when we move it. If you're using it in film, and I'm booming, you can sit down. Thank you. Give him a hand. If you want to do that test yourself, you can copy this instrument. It's not that hard to make. A glass and 2 spoons, and then you're off you go. Feel free to copy. I don't have copyrights to that. If we use it in film, and I'm booming the 2 of you like this, twisting the microphone around, and I have our friend here standing over here with that fantastic instrument. If I had a microphone with an unlinear off-axis response, the sound of the instrument would change when I turn the microphone. That's really annoying for post-production guys. If they have a dialogue and there is a water fountain or there's a car running or there's something in the background that they don't want, but if it's a water fountain, it's there all the time, so they can cut in the dialogue, no problem. But if it changes when the boom operator is moving, they can't cut in the dialogue. They need to really cut close to the dialogue and then add the water fountain afterwards. Again, on top of the dialogue. Or if it's interior in the car and they're moving the microphone from one shot to the other shot, the sound from the car or whatever is different in the 2 shots. They don't like that. So that's important. How are we doing time-wise? Are we good? Just because I'm thirsty.
Yeah, maybe we have 15 minutes to break.
Okay, 15 minutes to break. You have linearity off-axis on all shotgun microphones because you can imagine if I said high frequencies and water fountains and audio coming from all over the place. If you are using shotgun microphones inside a grand piano, you have all these frequencies coming from all over the places. So it's important for that off-axis response and shotgun microphones. But before we start talking more about that and the transient response, I would like to talk a little about the speech intelligibility. Speech intelligibility is the ability to understand what's being said. And the ability to understand what's being said is important when we do stuff like this, do lectures and a house of worship or a pastor in the church or whatever. So, let me just find a good place to start. Here. Ability to understand what's being said is, of course, or I'm saying of course because I've done this a few times, but it is relative to the frequencies. If we have a full frequency range, it's easy to understand, or it's easier to understand what's being said than if we have a limited frequency range. And I would like to demonstrate that. We have here a sound example. It's a guy speaking, reading of a book, and then we are adding filters to the recording. Starting by hearing it, flat, no filters, and then we are adding filters from the top down. At the end, we will hear only the low end. And out here, we have the speech intelligibility in percent. So, if we have 100% speech intelligibility, everybody understands 100% of what's being said. If it's 0, no one understands anything. And you know, everything in between. The way that we measure this is not by this recording here, but we have an actor in a room like this, for instance, talking in your native language. It should be your native language. And this actor, he's telling a story that you know. It could be a fairy tale, it could be whatever story that you know. And random, he will put in a rubbish word. A word that does not exist. And if everybody, all 100 people in the room catches that word and writes it down, we have 100% speech intelligibility. If we have less, only half the crowd they understood the word, and so on and so on. We can have many words, and then we will determine the speech intelligibility. Because our brain is programmed to fill in the blanks. That's why you can doze off and you can still understand what I'm saying if you know the topic. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can't sleep halfway because you will miss some of the important stuff. If you know what the stewardess is saying in the plane about the exits, and remember the nearest one can be behind you, and you know how to put on the life jacket and the mask is coming down and all that. If you've seen that 100 times, you don't need to listen. You know what she's saying. But if it's the first time, you would have to pay very close attention. So, this one here, we are adding the filters, and then let me know when you stop understanding what he's saying.
In language, infinitely many words can be written with a small set of letters. In arithmetic, infinitely many numbers can be composed from just a few digits with the help of the simple 0, the principle of position, and the concept of base. Pure systems with base 5 and 6 are said to be very rare. But base 20 occurs in English when we use score, as in 4 and 7. Eventually, most systems could keep pace with the decimal or iodus number system, which has 10 numerals. The digits 0, 1,
No?
2, 3, 4.
Okay, you guys have better ears than I do. And that's the same thing from bottom up with the high pass filter.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a decimal point. The numerals take different place values depending on position. So the number 819.65 can be shown as 8 times 10 to the 2 plus 1 times 10 to the 1 plus 9 times 10 to the 0 plus 6 times 10 to the minus 1 plus 5 times 10 to the minus 2. Monetary systems have evolved to make use of this base 10 notation. France became the first decimal country in Europe in 1788, joined by Belgium, Italy, and Switzerland
There's
in
one more.
1865.
So, yeah, you can stop. You see, this is the important area. This is what we need. That's where all the transients are, by the way. If you think of the shotgun microphone, all the transients are in that mid-range. And they give us the speech intelligibility. If they're not there, it's really hard for us to understand what's being said. We can live with not having the low end or the very high end, that's okay. But if we don't have the mid-range, we lose the speech intelligibility. And I will let you know in 10 minutes why that's important. We did an experiment where we had this guy, we had 7 guys and 3 girls. We recorded them. We had a microphone 1 meter away from them. And we record their voice. And then we placed microphones on their forehead. And we measured the difference between the 1 meter away microphone and the forehead microphone. And this shows the difference. We had over the ear, another one there, and that's the difference. We had the headset microphone like I'm wearing, and that's the difference. And on the chest, and that's the difference of that. So we are actually only looking at the difference in the placement, not the frequency response, because that looks completely different. But in order to have something comparable, we had the 1 meter away in relation to the different placements. So we learned that the forehead has an almost linear frequency response, but it has that little 800 hertz peak. So it sounds relatively natural. Over the ear, we still have the 800 hertz, but now all of a sudden we're losing all the high end. Very strange phenomenon. The cheek, that's the headset microphone. We have still 800 Hertz boost, losing all the high frequencies, but not the mid-range, the speech intelligibility range, as much as on the chest. Here, where we are losing all the high end when we place it down here. It's not because it's underneath the clothing, it's just the placement. And the reason for that, when we measure, when we take a picture of the face and we take the A-weighted, the average of all frequencies, we see that we have normalized it to in front of the speaker, 0 degrees, and you see we're losing energy behind the speaker. That's no surprise. We like to speak at people face to face. But the big surprise here is that the blue one here that's the highest frequencies. It's radiated in front of it, and we still have some to the side, but we're losing everything from the back. When we look at the person from the side, we will do that in just a second. Here, latency, bam. You see that we have most energy normalized again in the vertical plane, 0 degrees. We have more energy below the speaker. But we have all the high frequencies, high energy above the speaker. And a little in front of him down here. But most of it is over his head. And that's why when we're booming, we're up here. So, we're now going to do this experiment with one of you guys. So now I want a new volunteer. Yeah? No? Do we have a volunteer over here? Thank you. Are you wearing a shirt? No. A sweatshirt, that's okay. Keep it on. That's okay. What we will do, we will have these 4 microphones. You can sit here. Thank you very much. We have 4 microphones. The same capsule as the ones that I've passed around. Actually, exactly the same microphone as the one on the necklace. Where's the necklace right now? Who has the necklace? Oh, it's there. Did everybody see the necklace?
No.
No? Okay, who didn't see it? Okay, you can throw it. Oh, that's because I threw it in the back. Anyway, that's the capsule. But we have on the, hold it like this, here like a little bouquet. A bouquet of flowers. These 4 microphones. No? Let me just take the picture of the 4 here, because that's what we're going to listen to. In the beginning, to start with, we will delete that. Fantastic noise. It's going to get much better in just a second. He will be wearing these 4 microphones. Here we have the 4 tracks. We have the forehead, we have the ear, we have the cheek, and the chest. Can you see all those? Yeah. I didn't get the input right. Two, 3, and 4. Okay, thank you. I forget that all the time. And we'll have to set the levels. So what you will do now, you will speak, you can speak in Czech, it's okay, or in English, or in Danish, it's up to you. You will speak something, and we'll just make sure that all the microphones have the same level. Are we ready?
Okay.
You're not nervous?
A little bit.
Okay, that's good.
Sitting in front of people, it's
Yeah.
weird.
It's scary. Yeah. It gets worse. You can speak.
Okay, so right now sitting in front of a lot of people and the same levels of
all these mics and hearing if actually seeing if the levels are okay.
Speak.
Speaking right now. Just yeah. Something like
What you can do, I'll just erase that. What you can do, you can tell us how you got here, or what you had for breakfast, or...
Mlčel jsem 100 roků, kopal jsem uhlí. Jo, stejná práva pro všechny odmítl Sobotka britskou snahu o reformu EU. Vydáno před minutou. Děkuju. Návrh britského premiéra Davida Camerona na omezení volného pohybu uvnitř Evropské unie a omezení sociálních dávek pro občany členských zemí EU, kteří přichází do Velké Británie, se v české vládě moc nezamlouvá.
Thank you. I have no idea what that was. The weather forecast. I don't know. Well, actually, you can read this, and then we'll put it away, because we don't want anything, we don't want reflections when we do this test, because reflections, they change the sound when we put something in front of the mic. But for this test, we would like to hear if the microphones, they sound the same. So what I'll do here, I will change the output of what you're hearing, or to solo different channels, and we should not be able to hear the difference in the sound. It looks like the blue is a little more hot than the purple, does it? Yeah? Should we just adjust that? Or just know that it does?
Návrh britského premiéra Davida Camerona na omezení volného pohybu uvnitř Evropské unie a omezení sociálních dávek pro občany členských zemí EU, kteří přichází do Velké Británie, se v české... Návrh britského premiéra Davida Camerona na omezení volného pohybu uvnitř Evropské unie a omezení sociálních dávek.
We agree that they sound the same. Okay? Agreed? Yeah. Good. Now I will place them on you. And now you wish you shaved. No, I'm kidding. First, the ear. And the forehead. That's one of the funny one, because I have tape. Gaffer tape, yes. If it falls off, we might gaff it to your hair. And the ear.
Something generation don't take this without gaff.
Yeah. Are we on Facebook with this guy? Good. Do you have friends here? Not anymore. They will put you on Facebook and you hate it. It looks like you're gonna be electrified, but you will. Okay. We have the microphones, the forehead, and the chest should be around the same distance. Don't look down. Should be about the same distance to the sound source. The headset microphone is, of course, closer to the sound source now than the rest, so we will have more level on the headset. But we'll compensate for that in a minute, so we will only listen to the sound changes. So, we have the same sound on all of them there, and now we will investigate what happened. Here we go.
Technologie mikrofonů a mikrofonní techniky v praxi. Přednášející dvojtečka Brink, závorka DPA Microphones, čárka Jan R. Šafařík, Audio pro SRO. Odrážka číslo 1. Problematika konstrukce výroby kondenzátorových mikrofonů. Moderní technologie posledních let, vlastnosti různých druhů mikrofonů a jejich vliv na zvuk.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I heard my name in there somewhere. Okay. So you see that the headset, the purple, is now relatively hotter than the other ones. The green one is pretty much unchanged. The forehead more at more level, and the cheek more level, and the chest pretty much unchanged. So we have more level of here and here, of course, and we have over the ear and here. So let's start with the forehead. Listen to that one. That's the most, if we compare it to this picture, then the forehead is the one, whoops, too fast. The forehead has the most natural sound compared to 1 meter. And 1 meter is because this is our reference. When we talk, the distance is normally 1 meter. Unless we are very much in love, it's a little closer. But other than that, it's 1 meter away. So that's our reference of natural sounding voice. So this should sound natural. Like this.
Technologie mikrofonu a mikrofonní techniky v praxi. Přednášející, dvojtečka, Bo Brink, závorka DPA microphones, čárka, Jan R.
It's very loud. Over the ear.
Technologie mikrofonu a mikrofonní techniky v praxi. Přednášející, dvojtečka, Bo Brink.
Okay, we'll take the blue one a little down. And we will take the green one a little up. So the level, whoops. It's more like, right? Yeah. So the comparison will be more fair. Forehead.
Technologie mikrofonu a mikrofonní techniky v praxi. Přednášející, dvojtečka, Bo Brink, závorka DPA microphones, čárka, Jan R. Šafařík, audio pro SRO. Odrážka číslo 1. Problematika konstrukce výroby kondenzátorových mikrofonů.
Condensator. Something about condenser microphones, I think. So you can hear that now, just by moving the microphone from here to here, we're losing all the high end. So now it sounds like he's actually under a pillow or something. And the microphone, you can see them. It's right there, and we agreed before they were exactly the same. So a lot happens. Now we go to the headset. It's a little hot as well, so I'll bring it a little down. Here. No, I will actually start with the forehead again, because that's our reference. We need something to refer to every time we hear. When we do AB, we already forgot what the forehead sounded like. Our acoustic or audible memory is 3 seconds. That's how long we can remember. The smell we can remember for every time, but the audio we can only remember 3 seconds. So anyway, let's hear the forehead versus the cheek.
Technologie mikrofonu a mikrofonní techniky v praxi. Přednášející, dvojtečka, Bo Brink, závorka DPA microphones, čárka, Jan R. Šafařík, audio pro SRO. Odrážka číslo 1. Problematika konstrukce výroby kondenzátorových mikrofonů. Moderní technologie posledních let, vlastnosti různých druhů mikrofonů a jejich vliv na...
So I'm sure you agree that now we heard this one here versus that one over here. And you can hear that we're losing all that mid-range. It becomes very hollow all of a sudden, but we still have the highs, the S's and the T's compared to the ear recording where we didn't have the S's and the T's. Gracias. So, comparing again to the forehead, comparing now to the chest.
technologie mikrofonů a mikrofonní techniky v praxi. Přednášející dvojtečka Bo Brink, závorka DPA Microphones, čárka Jan R. Šafařík, audio pro SRO. Odrážka číslo 1, problematika konstrukce výroby kondenzátorových mikrofonů. Moderní technologie posledních let, vlastnosti různých druhů mikrofonů a jejich vliv na zvuk, volba... Okay.
So this concludes. Actually, I will. Unless there's something you want to record here, any ideas you have with this guy, something you want him to say. I record it. I'll send you the audio files. No. So the conclusion here is that the chest mount is actually. So this is where it's gonna hurt. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Give him a hand. So the conclusion is that when we move the microphone to the chest, we lose the important information. We lose the speech intelligibility. So that position there, where we have the microphones every time in film and in TV, right here is the worst place. Of all places to put the microphone, the chest is the worst. We learned that we have 10 dB more signal. It was a little hard in this experiment here, but the idea was okay. We get 10 dB more when we move the microphone closer, and when we move the microphone to the chest, we have to compensate for the speech intelligibility. The compensation can be done either in the post-production where you EQ, where you regain some of that 3 kilohertz that you lost, but you can also do it right there in the recording. We do it on our microphones, on the DPA mics, with these small interference tubes, or these small acoustical grids, as we call them. We have 2 different types. One that boosts about 4 or 5 dB at around 12 kilohertz, and then we have the more aggressive one, the one that we're using on the necklace mic. Again, I won't throw it. The necklace mic, we are using the high boost grill. It boosts 10 dB at 12 kilohertz to compensate for all that loss of the high frequencies. So you don't have to worry too much about it when you are doing Big Brother or whatever you're doing with this. So, any questions? No? Very good. Very good. So what we will do, we will have a little break now. We will be back at 4 o'clock. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And at 4 o'clock, I will pass my iPad around, and you can sign your name again and your email address again, and then I will write you a personal email next week when I'm back in Denmark and ask you to comment on the workshop. If you like it, or if you didn't like it, or anything you want to know more of, you can ask me. We will also, on the sign-ups here, we will put you on our mailing list, and we will spam her. We will send you 3 emails every day from now on. No, we won't. We will kindly ask you, if you don't want to be on our website, on our newsletter, you won't be there. Of course we won't, and we won't send you any emails. But we will also have a little competition. We will give away one of our, to have the backload, we still have a little of that backload. So right there at 180 degrees, we have some pickup here, because it is a supercardioid. But it's very nice to have all the lines aligned in this area here, and hardly anything. The red part here is the difference between this supercardioid and a normal cardioid. So this red part here is something that you don't get on a supercardioid of this type. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Latency? Doesn't work today. Anyway, Here you see some of the others. I don't like pointing fingers at anyone, but if you're really quick, you can see the numbers up there. So, anyway, this vocal microphone is becoming really popular, exactly because of the freedom it gives the vocalist around. Also, both in pop music and of course in rock. This guy singing on just like the one that we have here, a Wisicom wireless, and he said that the microphones, they actually saved his tour because he's playing 30 years this year, and to celebrate that they are playing 120 or 112 concerts in 1 year. And he's not young anymore, so the clarity and the ability to get his voice through, it looks like he's singing very, very loud, but he's not. He's hardly saying anything. And it's coming out anyway, so you really like this. This is a Korean guy, he's being very creative. He's painting his microphone white. Doesn't have to. Well, if he wants it white, he can have it white. But what we did, we made the Beyonce gold. So you can just take this off and make it gold. So nice. Or if you have the Sennheiser wireless, the 2000 handle, and you want it to have the same color, all you do is you change the grill, and you take the wireless handle, your favorite capsule, bam, and then you are wireless. So you don't have to compromise anything. You can just take whatever favorite wireless system you have and then put your favorite capsule and your favorite color on it, and then there you go, you can win X Factor. Anyway, that was the vocal microphone. Any questions on the vocal microphone? Price, him, and him. I don't know. Anyway, instrument microphones, proximity effect. Proximity effect, off-axis response. That's the VUT. Oh, I forgot to talk about D names. The D names. All the names, all our microphones, they have D names. All the I names, they were taken. So we take the D names. Define is the headset microphone. The VUT, it's the instrument microphones. De facto, vocal microphone. Dedicate, you have to remember this, right? Dedicate is the modular system, all this, the studio microphones. Dimension is the surround microphones. And no, it's not a drum stool, it's not a bicycle seat. It's a microphone. It's actually 5 microphones in one. Hook it up and you can record surround, perfect surround. And discrete is the miniature microphones for film, for discrete use, more or less. Okay, talking about the VUT microphone. Miniature shotgun microphone. We are going to use this miniature shotgun microphone on your beautiful instruments in a minute. It's the same engine, the same capsule, the same diaphragm, if you like. It's not as tight as this one here, as the Omni, but it's the same family. So we can use the Omni on a violin, for instance. If you want that clarity, you want that fast transient response and all that high end, and you can benefit for not having to struggle with the proximity effect or the handling noise, then you can use the Omni microphone in there. It's very useful. But if you have a full orchestra, you have a drummer, background noise again, you want to have some directivity, then you can use the directional microphone. Of course, you can use Omni microphones on other instruments as well, like here on the saxophone. That doesn't sound very good to my taste, because like with this one here, pointing straight, we don't have a saxophone player here today, do we? No. Pointing straight into the bell of a saxophone. It doesn't sound good, because only one note comes out of the bell. And that's when all the buttons are closed. then we have sound coming out of only the bell. The rest of the notes, it's a combination of the keys and the bell. So a better position, is when we are recording saxophone is this here. Because the off-axis response is linear and we're pointing towards the keys and we're pointing away from the bell. It's closer to the bell, but pointing away from the bell. Do we have an acoustic guitar? Yes, we do. So we can do this experiment in 2 minutes, where we are pointing the microphone away from some of the sound sources on one instrument and closer to other sound sources. See, the close miking of instruments is always a compromise. The instrument sounds better from a distance. The vocal sounds much better from 1 meter away. The grand piano sounds much better 2 meters away, and so on and so on. So close miking is also always because we want to eliminate the background noise. We want to have that close miking for some other reason than because we have to or we want to, but because we have to. See the experiment here with the clarinet. The example shows that the clarinet radiates 1 kilohertz out in front of the instrument. 2 kilohertz in front of him into the floor, and 5 kilohertz straight down. So the best placement to pick up the clarinet is out here, if you were the clarinet player. It's out here, 2 meters away. Then we have a good combination of all the frequencies of the entire instrument. It sounds most natural out there. But if we have the drummer over here, and the singer and the bass and all that, and we want to close mic it, the best place is right there, right in front of the instrument, on the bell. And in order to do that, you need to have a microphone that is capable of picking up the sound off-axis as well as on-axis. You can imagine what that would sound like if you had a microphone where the off-axis response was going like this. Now we have 7 seconds before it starts again. If the frequency response, 6, 7. So, the frequency response going like that, off-axis, it wouldn't sound as natural coming out of the bell as in front of the microphone. So it's a combination of the off-axis and the on-axis that gives us the full sound of this instrument. We're using, on this here, we're using the Velcro, the universal holder. Like this, we're putting it over, this is the fun part, this is a clarinet. We put the microphone on here, the rubber part here. We can still turn it, but we can't pull it back and forth. And then we put it on the clarinet. You have to have a good imagination. Like that. So easy. Now I can play my clarinet. We use the Velcro on, this is the flute. I think it's a Brazilian flute. This is a Brazilian berimbau, I think it is. They're using it for when they do the capoeira dancing stuff. It's a huge instrument. That's a coconut. They are also using the universal clip on the drums, on this guy here. Sing up here under the cymbals. They wanted to have every cymbal recorded by themselves, and they didn't want to have the microphone stands as overheads behind him because they have a huge LED wall back there, and they didn't want to have these huge microphones over there. So he wanted this guy here. He wanted to have. It's not CC Top. It's Big Mick Hughes. He's been sound engineer at Metallica since 1872 or something. He wanted to have full control over all of these drums, so he's using that. He's using on the rims of the guitar, of the drums, of course, not the guitar. The drums. He's using the drum clip, of course. I should throw stuff now. Here, that's the universal holder. The drum clip goes over the drum, and it's funny because in the live business, we call it a drum clip, but in the film business, they call it the table clip, because that's where when they use these microphones, which is practically the same microphone, just a different sensitivity and without the shock arm, when they use that in film as a plant mic, they have the actors sitting at the table and they want the microphone out of the picture. They use these small shotgun microphone there. Here, catch. Again, if you break it, you buy it. Yeah. Oh, it came apart. You have to see that there's this lock. It goes over. If we now take the guitar, I won't throw the guitar clip because I'm going to use that microphone now. I can throw the violin clip, which is the same as the guitar clip. It goes over the violin. I will find a picture of it so you can see what I'm talking about. We have the picture in the corner also. But it goes over the violin, so if you have ever worked with violinists, have you? Yeah, you have? Oh, okay, so you know that going up to a violin player and saying, "Can I hold your instrument for 1 second? I would like to place this microphone on it." They would say, "No, you can't." So what you do, you take the microphone, put it in the rubber groove here, you lock it so it won't fall apart, and you twist it, and you have whatever angle you want, and you show it like that. Now you squeeze it over your violin very gently, and it sits there. It stays there. And when you want to take it off, you squeeze the balls, and you take that off. Maybe not say that, but say you squeeze these two here, and then you take it off, and then when you put it back on, you squeeze it back in, you let go, and then it sits there. You can imagine that without, here, catch. Without the microphone, because we're going to use the same holder, just a little longer pin, over the guitar. Yep, no, I can't touch your instrument. What? Oh yeah. We could try that, depending on the time. Yeah. Have you tried this? Good. So you know where to put it. Good. I don't know. No. Can you sit in that chair, or should we get another chair? You can sit there. What I do, because I come from the land of Lego, I built my own microphone. I took the guitar holder, and you notice that I call it the guitar holder. It's not a microphone holder. From where we are, it holds the guitar. It holds the guitar in place. And the microphone is the center of the universe. So this one holds the guitar. And you imagine what people look like when I say that. This little thing that can hold a piano in place. That's a piano holder. It's magnetic. So what I do, I go over here, I squeeze it over the instrument, and then I point it somewhere. When I take it off, I squeeze these two, like that, put it back on, I squeeze them, and we are in the same position. So, cable, microphone, holder, cable, and then I choose an adapter. I choose the XLR adapter for phantom power. I could have chosen the this little adapter for wireless systems if I wanted to go wireless. But I choose the phantom power adapter. And then I choose to mute. And this. No? And then we will change to my Pro Tools, and we hope that it recognizes the iLock. New track. Thank you, de facto. 4099G for a guitar clip. It's the same microphone. Whoops. Same microphone, but this one here comes with the guitar clip. All right, sound check. Thank you. What I normally do when I experience a new instrument, I must admit the acoustic guitar is not that new for me. But what I could do when it's shaped a little different than I'm used to or whatever, then I take an omni microphone, the pressure microphone that does not suffer from the proximity effect. It could be one of these, it could be the necklace, it doesn't matter, as long as it's a pressure microphone. And then I will record this and I will move around the instrument. And I will learn what it sounds like in different positions. Not different distances, yes, different distances, but not proximity effect. And it's really, really important to emphasize that, because when I move the microphone away from the instrument, if it's a directional microphone, I will change the sound of the microphone, not the sound of the instrument. But using a pressure microphone, I will only change, I will hear the sound changes of the instrument. And then I would learn that we have a lot of volume here. We have a very full sounding guitar around the sound hole. And I want to pick up that sound. So what I do, in this case, I point my microphone straight to the sound hole. And I will record that. Are you ready? Could you play something? Yeah. Hmm? Yeah, then we just need a new sound check. Okay, again? Yeah. All right. Clear. Here you go. I hate to stop them when it sounds so good, but I have to, because we don't want to stay here all day. So, this sounds like this. And it sounds like a guitar. It's okay. It's supposed to.
It sounds like an old band.
It's old band, yes. Vintage guitar. Yeah. Well, it's okay for now. Because the experiment shows that we have too much of the sound hole when we're pointing at the sound hole. We like the sound of the guitar. When I'm out here, I really love the sound. When I have the recording of my pressure microphone out here, it sounds fantastic. So, because I know about the linearity of the microphone off axis, what I can do now, I can just turn the microphone. I'm not moving it, I'm just turning it and pointing more towards the strings. I will not remove the sound from the sound hole, I will just attenuate it, just like with the vocal microphone. It sounds the same, but just turned down, attenuated. And now it sounds like this. If you play again. All right. You see, now we lost some of the energy because we're not pointing towards the sound hole anymore. But the sound should still be good, but more of the fretboard. Now we have the fretboard sound. It's more like the washboard, right? And that's too much. For this recording, we will decide that that's too much. So now I have to find the compromise. And the compromise is, of course, right in between. So now I'm moving only 30, 40 degrees back towards the sound hole. So we should regain some of the sound without regaining all the energy. So this position should be right in between the two previous recordings. Almost the same energy. Maybe you played a little harder, or I have pushed the microphone a little closer. Compared to the first one, can you tell the difference? So the annoying sound coming from the sound hole is now attenuated, but we've got more of the strings. And I can do whatever I want with the small movements here, the good compromise, until I find the perfect sound. And I haven't even touched the EQ yet. That being said, it's important to, yeah, you can rest for a bit. I'll just release you of this. I've seen sound engineers, when they record guitars, acoustic guitars, they like to have two microphones. One at the fretboard and one at the deck. Thinking that they want the warm wooden sound coming from the deck. And they have the high definition, the transients coming from the guitar. And also, they're using the large diaphragm microphone down here, and then a pencil microphone up here. Obviously, they've never been to one of my seminars because they don't know anything about phase problems. They don't know anything about the timing of the two different diaphragms. What they give you are problems. Because the problem with the large diaphragm microphone, remember the big trampoline? The problem is that, yeah, we have more low end, but it's not because we don't have the high end, it's just because it's distorting or it's unprecise. And then we have all the high end from the other microphone. And you heard here how much little movements change the sound of the instruments. It's not a problem when you have a piano holder, the piano stays where it is, but it's a problem when you have a guitar player, because he's moving around. And if he's moving around, moving away from two microphones, you more than double the problem, because the timing of the two microphones are different, because it's two different types of microphones often, and also because they hear the same sound source at two different times. And that timing gives all the waveforms, gives us the comb filtering, and it sounds, sometimes you can live with it, and sometimes it's actually good, but normally you would like to have the guitar sounding like the guitar, and not like the microphones or the placements. So, imagine now that we want to bring the guitarist back now, and he's going to do a punch in here. We like this position, it was fantastic. We worked with this position for 2 hours, now we know exactly where the microphone is. He played his first recording, but he made a mistake, we want to punch in here. So he will come back and he will sit down and he will look at the two microphones and the chair, which was almost here or almost here. He doesn't know where it was. He doesn't know where he was sitting before. So you heard the small movements, how big a change that made. So it's impossible for me as a sound engineer to make that sound natural, that punch in. So what I'll have to do, I'll have to copy paste the good part from the first verse and then copy it in. But if you want to play and you want to do it right, you have to have microphones that are either on the instruments or on the musician himself. So, that being said, if we want to have more of the low end, if you want to do it again, if you want to make 1/4 recording, now we know exactly where the microphone was. I want to be closer. I want to make a fourth placement. I want to be closer to the guitar. So what I do, I will mute it, and I will add this extra little gooseneck extension. So, again, from the land of Lego. It should be very, very easy. Maybe it doesn't stop holding so much. So what I do, I actually make a little boom hole, so I can go. I can add as many of these as I want. I'm not sure that they would not laugh at me at the film set if I came with this boom hole. That's it. I have to do this with my pinky also. Okay, now I have a really long instrument microphone, and I can go maybe from underneath. No? I pretend I didn't hear that. So, no, I didn't go. Okay, right. I like it from underneath. Now we're very close. It's very underneath. It's very annoying. This workshop is going in a direction I don't know. So, let's hear this one. Let's do it, before we hear it, let's do it again, where I'm just pulling the microphone away. I'm using the proximity effect. I'm EQing, before I was mixing, now I'm EQing. Pulling the microphone away, I'm actively using the proximity effect. And it sounds like... Okay, these guys here. And one where I pulled it away. It's hard for me to hear from up here. There should be way more low end in the first recording. Just a little? Oh, okay. Experiment didn't work. I'm sorry. It should work. Anyway, you can experiment that on your own. Pull the microphone a little further away or closer or whatever you want. And then when you have found the perfect position, then you should start EQing and not before. So, when I now look at the bass holder, the one that holds the bass, here, you see that I'm very close. I will release you again, yes, thank you. You see that I'm now holding the bass very close to the microphone. And that actually gives us a little extra boost of the low end, which we like on the bass. Because when we look at the frequency response of this microphone. Maybe you saw it before. You see that after around 70 hertz, 60, 70 hertz, the line is dotted. And that's because we know that it's rolling off down there, but we don't know 100% how fast it's rolling off. Because it's a little different from microphone to microphone. We guarantee you that we have a flat linear frequency response from 80 to 15 kilohertz, plus minus 2 dB. So that you know, that's for sure, at 20 centimeters, with a soft boost at 10 kilohertz. We give you that it has a 6 millivolt per Pascal sensitivity. And we know that it will not clip until 142 dB on that microphone, the guitar microphone. If we then take the trumpet microphone or the drum microphone, which has the highest bill handling, it won't clip until 152 dB. So we can actually use it inside or outside kick drum or on a snare drum as well without the microphone clipping. Talking of snare drums, I would like to play a sound example for you. Save that and open this here, where I'm recording a drummer. Well, do we have drums here? Yeah, we do.
Yes.
You also the drummer?
No.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, wow. Yeah, let's do the snare drum here. Yeah. Then I will do the example of the overheads on this one here on my recording here. I used on this recording here. I actually made two. On that, I used the 2011 C, the one I was talking about before. This one here. It's two miniature capsules inside. So this is somewhere, this is a bridge between the 19mm capsules, the 4011, the de factos and all that, and the miniature capsules, because it's modular as the Dedicate series and the de facto. But it's built with miniature capsules. And what we can do, we can actually make a very good microphone for very little money, because we're using that technology of the miniature capsule, which is a cheaper technology than the 19mm capsules. And we have, because we're using two, and we're using them back to back, not like two microphones, but two diaphragms back to back on one back plate. So we have the double capacity, we have the double diaphragm surface without having two microphones. So we get lower self-noise, as high SPL handling, and therefore a larger dynamic range on this. So that we will use on the snare drum in a minute, but I will let you hear the overheads on a drum set we did recently. Ta-da! What it is, it's two of these, and what I did when I placed them, I made sure that the snare drum has the same distance to both overhead mics. How many of you do that when you mic drums? Good for you. What we get, the five of us, when we do that, we know that we have the snare drum in the center of the mix. We know that the microphones, they have the same sensitivity, so we know that they pick up the same amount of sound. And if we also make sure that the timing is right between these two microphones, we know when the timing and the level, the sensitivity of the mics is the same, we know that the microphone is in mono. It's the same signal entering two microphones at the same time. It's mono. So the snare drum is in the center. So if I think 5, 6 of you are in the sweet spot, you can hear that the snare drum is in the middle. On the second recording as well, where I moved the microphones just a bit, because I wanted to have more snare drum, more of the high end of the snare drum in the microphones. You should be able to hear where the hi-hat is and where the right cymbal is, the guys in the middle, and the snare drum right there in the middle. Right? No? No. Well, I hope the hi-hat was over there. Anyway, the SPL handling of the snare drum and the I hear a phone again. It's not mine, is it? It's not mine. I will change microphone. It's the same microphone, yes, but we have two different sensitivities, as I said before. We have the high SPL handling, and I will use that on the snare drum. I threw the drum holder a minute ago. Can someone throw it back to me? No? Okay, we lost the drum holder. The drum clip. No? No.
Yes. Can we throw it?
Oh, okay, yes. Throw it back. Thank you. I don't want the mic, just a moment. Okay, I'll attach this again with the locking cap here. I will mute and place the microphone, the miniature microphone here. 7 seconds on this ring here, and maybe only 6. Place it randomly. Normally, when I start out with the placement, I have it 1 inch in over this skin and 1 inch over. So 1, 1. Just a starting point. I have no idea. I haven't heard the snare, so I have no idea. This is just a starting point. I will record it because we can't hear we can't hear what's going on in the speakers when the instrument is in the room. So, can we have a little sound check? That's weird. I told you it wasn't mine. Come again? Okay. Wait. You play? The other one was just a sound. Perfect. Sounds good. Give him a hand. Very good. Sounds like this. Unmute? No? No. So I don't know about you, but I feel that we have a pretty well full sound here. We don't need the bottom mic, do we? You missed the siding? No? See, the habit of using that under miking of a snare drum is a really bad habit as well. I'm sorry. But it's basically, it was invented because the microphone, the only microphone that was capable of handling that high SPL was dynamic microphones. And the dynamic microphones, they would not give you anything above, I'm thinking one specific dynamic microphone, and that won't give you anything, any high-end information. That won't give you the siding sound. So if you want the high SPL and you want the siding, you have to use two microphones. And then here is another surprise for a lot of people. They think that because they point in the opposite direction, these two microphones, one needs to be out of phase. You have to phase reverse the bottom mic. How many of you do that every time just because you have to? Everybody does that. Stop doing it. Because, one, I bet you don't know the phase response of the microphone that you use. One could be positive on a positive going sound wave. The other one could be negative. We have two different microphones that act differently, just within DPA. Second, they have the different phase response on their lab microphones. Schups have a different phase response on their boom microphones. So I bet you, if you just use a 414 underneath and an SM57 on the top, I bet you they are not in phase. So why change the phase if they're not in phase to begin with? And changing the phase on those two, or one of them, will change the sound. Yes, of course, because now you have maybe 5 or 7 frequencies and all their octaves that are now changing phase relative to these two. But what about all the other frequencies? Are they now in phase or are they out of phase? So just changing it because you feel you have to, because they point that way, that's a bad habit. Stop doing that. Listen to the mic and change the phase. If you like to have it different, change the phase, because it might sound better, but you might also just use a microphone that holds all the information so you don't have to use two microphones all the time with all the phase problems that gives you. Anyway, that was a lecture. That was not a workshop, that was a lecture. That was a pointy finger. We want to have, let's say, less low end. Maybe we have too much. We want to have more high end or less low end. We want to change the curve. So what I do, I use the proximity effect, and I hope it works better this time. Move the microphone away from the instrument. Maybe even more. Like that. Still pointing at the center. And we will do a new recording. Right? Very good at that. It sounds like this. Less low end, less volume, of course. We're moving away from the sound source. I can just turn it up so we know what we're comparing. It almost sounds like two different snare drums, right? So just changing the position actually gives you so much more variety. And when I do live recordings or I do studio recordings, I spend a lot of time moving the microphones around. And when I'm just the B assistant or when I'm just looking at someone else doing it, I see the sound engineer. He's placing the microphone, yeah. Instrument, mic, yeah, cool. And then he walks away, and then he doesn't look at the drummer, the microphone. Sometimes he never heard the drum acoustically before he moves away from the mic. And then he's looking at his board and he's doing all the EQing because he has all these fancy plugins. He can make it sound exactly like he wants. Now this guy here, he tuned this, he practiced for 18 years. And he tuned, and he selected this snare very, very carefully. And he knows how to play it, and he knows exactly what it should sound like. And here I am, just placing a random microphone, dynamic microphone, ends with a 7, and then I start EQing. That's ignorant, right? Yeah. They hate him for doing that. So what I do, I change the microphone at least 3 times, the microphone position at least 3 times, if I'm not happy, before I start EQing. If the 3rd time sounds worse than the 2nd time, I go back to position number 2. If it sounds a little better, then I will go to position number 4, until I find the limit to the microphone or to the placement or to the pickup of whatever incoming noise there is. But at least 3 times. And I encourage you to do that. And if you are maybe 500 meters away in the front of house, and you have an assistant walking around up there, you should tell him to either call me and I will tell him to move the microphone 3 times, or you should tell him to move the microphone around. What I do, as I said before, I take 1 inch over, so I know exactly where I'm starting. And if I never see the microphone or never see the instrument before my assistant he puts on the microphone, I know where the microphones are because I told him where I want the microphone starting position. So I can talk to him in the intercom and I can say, lift it a little bit, I have too much low end. Or a little closer to the instrument, I have too little low end. Point it a little away from the hi-hat. I have too much hi-hat in my snare drum mic. So I know I have a little back lobe because it's a shotgun microphone. So what I do, I make sure that the hi-hat, if we put it over here, I will trip over the hi-hat here. The hi-hat is over here, right? So what I do, I place the microphone so the 140 degrees angle to the rear of the microphone is pointing to the other sound source, the hi-hat in this case, because that's where I have the least pickup. If I have it to the side, I will have 9 dBs less hi-hat than snare drum, but if I point it here, I have maybe 18 dB less hi-hat than snare drum. So, moving the microphone around, finding the sweet spot, level, angle, everything you do influences on the sound, of course. You want to hear the kick drum? Yeah? Or you want to hear my recording? Here, right? Yeah. What we can do with the kick drum, we can actually use 2 mics so you can hear the differences. I use, when I mic up the kick drum, I use the violin holder on the rim. I say violin holder and I show you a banjo. That's weird, but it's because it is the same holder. Also here, on that. So I threw the violin holder, didn't I? Who has my violin holder? No? We lost the drum holder, now we lost the violin holder. We won't have any instruments left. We can use the guitar holder. That's okay, but I will come after you. Oh, catch! Oh, I mean, throw. Careful. Thank you. You don't have a drum pedal. Okay, it's a little problem. We will experiment a little with this. Extra XLR cable, then we will do the 2011C as well. So what I do, I use the, as on the picture, around the rim, squeeze it, and point it. But now, it's not long enough, so I go back to the gooseneck extension. So I make the microphone longer in order for it to reach the hole. Like that. Can you see? In the back? No. See? That's why we call it a drum holder. Higher. Ah, yeah, right. We will leave it after, when we've done this, we will leave it so you can come down and you can see what we did. Okay, and I will use the 2011 over here. The one that I used on the overheads on the example I played before. I will just throw it in here. You have a lot of stuff in here. Underwear. Laundry. Okay, we have it here. Two. So we have kick drum.
Yeah, problem. Microphone. No.
Hmm?
Yeah, problem.
Oh, it never comes off. So it's not falling off. Yeah. We have the 2011 and the 4099. Somewhere. And again, I don't know where to put this. I will just place it somewhere. Random. That's a good spot. Let's start there. Ah. Yeah. So let's hear it. You can just change it because I have the 4099 on the top one. That's a miniature. And the 2011C, I have that as number 2. Okay, again, sound check. Yeah, you can play snare. Perfect. A lot of transients. Low-end transients. So let's start with the 4099. microphone in the sound hole. So I can have more low end if I push it further in or twist and turn it a little. I can't really, from up here, I can't hear how much low end I wanted or I had. The 2011, again, I don't know where I put it, somewhere inside his laundry. Again, I don't know. I could push it further in to have more of the beater. I could pull it out. I could mix these two. So, you see, is it funny? You see what I mean with the big canvas, that the same microphone we used on the guitar, we're now using on the bass drum. So you will never run out of your favorite microphone if you just use one microphone for everything. We could have used it for overheads, we could have used it for hi-hat or for whatever we want, but pretty much anything you want. We could use it for grand piano as you saw before. You want to try something else? Yeah? Hi-hat. All right. Do we have more cables? Because Beyonce on hi-hat. Whoa. Number 3. You want another free trick for the tape? I have a box full of them. See, when we are, let's get rid of the piano holder. So when we have this cable, too long cable, we want it around the microphone stand, rather than going like this. Go around and you get curly. You strengthen yourself. What I do, I learned it from a colleague. I take the cable, I go around like this 3 times, 4, whatever. Then I have it up there and there. It's very easy. And when we are packing down, it's very easy. Just like that. Yeah? Applause. So, but remember, it only goes with golden microphones. So, we know about the highest bill handling. We know about the linearity, 12 centimeters. We know about the little extra 12 kilohertz boost that this microphone has. And maybe you remember the frequency response of it, but it also has a roll-off around 80 hertz. And that's relatively convenient here, because we don't want that low end. Right? So, let's do the hi-hat on 3. Here we go. We want to have snare. Should we use the snare on 4? So we have everything? What mic should we use on the snare drum? What would be interesting? We haven't really tried. Any suggestions? Except the surround mic? Well, we could. We have 1 channel left. What would you like on the snare? Okay, I'll make a decision. my favorite. That's not my favorite. Where's the A preamp? Okay, we lost an A preamp. I do some VUT stuff today. No? The A preamp.
Isn't it here?
Yes, it is. It's not that I lose stuff, it's just that I'm being very forgetful. This is the white cardioid microphone. It's the 4015. Actually, it's my favorite for overhead, so I shouldn't be using it. I used another 4018. We have a 4018VL, it's called. It's new. It's linear. It doesn't have the 12 kilohertz boost. So maybe, I don't know, 1. And it's in number 4. Okay. That's perfect. It looks funny, right? Yeah. Well, we have it. All right. So a little rehearsal. Yeah, and the snare. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Thank you. If you sound engineers, you know you experience the same thing as I do. We ask the drummer, can we have a sound check? Yeah, and then we start playing. It's nothing personal. They're really don't like it. I had a guitarist and he was doing the same thing. He was looking at his sheet music and they never play loud, but they have sheet music in front of them, so they play. And then the concert started, and then he started all over the place. Well, he said, well, you should know me, I only play very soft during sound check. Sound check. It's fantastic. Okay, let's, can we have the snare maximum? Super. Again. Ruby. It's a lot better, thank you. Okay. The kick drum from before, it should sound the same. Whoa! See, we had, yeah, that was Beyonce. You could tell. Here we are. One kick drum, the other one inside. And the hi-hat. pickup pattern of this microphone, I would probably aim at having the snare drum a little more to the side of the microphone. Something like that. Not that it looks fantastic, but it's more efficient that way. You can't play? Can you play? I think he's doing really well. That's a very cruel thing to say. I know what you mean. If that's a problem and we still like the sound, we could just take the capsule. We like that capsule and put it on this cable, and then the entire microphone is now this big. So, if he can play, then we can do this. Are you okay with this? Good. Let's keep it for that for now. And the snare drum with the other vocal microphone capsule. Very little hi-hat, if you ask me.
Very little strings.
Very little strings, yes. We should just put a microphone underneath, right? And put it out of phase, then we are good. We will give it a little more distance, a little more level. We will probably have a little more hi-hat in it. We will have a little less snare in the hi-hat. What would you want to do with the kick drum? Put it further in? Just to listen. It's twisting. Like that. And the other one, oh, it moved. It played too hard. Like that. So both of them are further in towards the beater. Okay, let's mute this little sound check. No, I think we're good. Super. Snare drum first. Any change from before? Different tempo, but the snare is it's more open here. No? We should change the mic. We don't want to EQ, right? The hi-hat. Remember how much snare we had before? The hi-hat sounds pretty much the same, but now without the pickup of the snare. Now the 2011 C inside the kick, closer to the beater. Before? No, stop. Before. So you would think that closer to the beater gave us more of the kick, of the skin sound, right? But no, it actually gave us more low end. Maybe because of the proximity of it. I don't know. The 4099 outside, now more inside. course we have less spill of the snare. So the combination now. Actually liked the snare sound better before with the other microphone, so I would probably change to that. The 4099, it had more, was more open, had more high end to it, or actually it has less low end. That's what it has, because these two have. This one here is linear in. It's also linear in 12 centimeters, so that should be the same. Anyway, I like the sound of the other one better. So if there's anything you would like to try, we'll do it. We have still a little more time.
Maybe one better position for snare drum.
Yeah?
There would be, yeah.
Yes, please, please.
Because I think there is not a lot of strings.
Unless you put it underneath. You want to put it underneath. Interesting. Oh, okay, yeah, that one.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, just a little of
Yeah.
head and bit of shell.
Yes.
Maybe.
It's very good, especially in the studio. It's fantastic because you get a lot of the sound of the kettle. Sometimes when you use that position live, you are suffering from the same problem as with the acoustic guitar, that the actual instrument is becoming a reflector.
Yeah.
So here, the snare, because the snare is so loud, it might not be a problem. But when the acoustic guitar, the microphone pointing at the deck and reflecting the wedges or the speakers or whatever. But let's hear that one. Anything else you'd like me to move? Try something? No?
What about the hi-hat moving, microphone moving a little closer to the hi-hat? We'll get more body.
Yes. Let's do that. Probably too much, but I'll go closer to the edge as well. No, you can't. Can you play? No? You don't think so? Open? You okay? Don't hit it. Anything else with the snare or the kick? Just for the experiment, I like to move around. I'm lifting it. I'm not moving it in and out. I'm lifting it. Okay, are you ready? Cool. Snare drum first. That sounds a lot like a snare, doesn't it? Compared to before. We actually got exactly what we wanted. We wanted to have more high end, less of the snare. So that's a very good placement for this experiment. And we got more of the siding, what do you call it here? Underneath. The hi-hat, more body. It's hard to remember. can experiment with it, whatever we like. We have not EQ'd yet. We didn't change that. We changed this, the 4099, the outside. Before, that was just lifting it 5 centimeters. So, thank you very much. Give me my hand. If you will leave everything here, you guys can come down and you can look at the microphone placements. And this pretty much concludes what I had to talk to you about. What we have at DPA website, we have what we call the Microphone University, where we have a lot of articles about dynamic versus condenser microphones, omni versus cardioid, and microphone placements. We have a full section on stereo techniques. If you the double bass, yeah, we can do the double bass as well. You want to do the double bass? Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's do the double bass. It's pretty much the same principles, yeah, as with the other instruments. Moving closer to the deck gives us more low end. Moving away from the deck gives us less, and so on and so on. We don't happen to have 2 elastic bands, do we? I know it's weird, but it's a fantastic microphone holder for double bass. Okay, I have to move these microphones now. So, you want to see it? Then come down and see it, and then we'll do the double bass. Okay? If you're interested, let's do that real quick.